Hello, welcome back to Mart's Garage. The last thing I was doing when I was filming was working on the struts for the supporting the back of the Overdrive there, and I worked on those yesterday and I finished them off and I've fitted them. Well, I haven't tightened the bolts, but they are in place. There's the bracket there, look. The corners all trimmed and bolts in place. There's the rear part. Haven't got the bolts in place there yet. The Overdrive's all fitted. I have extended the clutch linkage and tested that the clutch releases. A lot of people have been commenting about the fingers on the clutch fouling the extended boss, but they don't foul. It's okay. When I was working on those bars and I was underneath the car, I felt a hint of vertigo. When we were walking the dogs the other day, the dog ran round and round me and I span round and it kind of triggered off a little bit of vertigo, a bit of dizziness, and I felt it again when I was under the car. And I had it really bad some time ago, so I'm a little bit wary of setting it off again. So when I finish those, I haven't done any more to them. I've kind of had a rest really for a little bit, for a day or so. So what I did, I concentrated on things that I could do without going underneath the car. So I fitted this exhaust, I fitted the headlamps, fitted the grille, fitted the radiator. I made new hoses for down there because the engine is raised now and further forward. It didn't need quite so much offset in the hoses, so that I just made those from straight pipe. And these were fitted just by sliding this part further into there, and they fitted okay. And I've connected these, and I've connected the filter and the oil pressure gauge down there. There's a little bit more room around there now. There's a tight gap, but there is clearance between the exhaust and the steering box, and you can see where I fitted a new bolt there. So that's all hooked back up, all the wires are connected. I fitted the hood. So this end of the car is back together. What I need to turn my attention to, but obviously from what I've just said, I need to be a little bit careful about what I'm doing, is I need to turn my attention to the back axle. And what I think I'm going to do is get the engine crane, raise the rear end of the car and move the car forward. So I'll have an area here where I can work on the rear axle. What could possibly go wrong? I'll lower it down a bit so if it falls, it don't fall too far. Okay, the car's moved forward, it's back down on the axle stands, and I'll have to move a few things here because it's a little bit crowded here now, but that enables the next phase of the job to start. And that next phase of the job is going to be preparing the back axle. Okay, I'll just show you something that I noticed. Noticed I don't know how long that's been missing. Anyway, hey ho. Okay, right. Disassembly of everything from there forward then. I've partially stripped down the axle. The torque tube is off, the radius arms are off, everything's off, drums are off. And I'm trying to take the drive shaft off. And what you can see there is that the hole is perfectly aligned. I've taken the pin out, had to drill it, knock it out. Problem is I'm using these bolts as jacks, and I'm trying to push this off that. The problem is it's pulling the bearing out. Now this was very tight to go on. Because there was a little bit of play in it, I ran a bead of weld round it, and that made it tight, which I think in retrospect was a bad move. Right, let's regroup, because this isn't working. This is pulling the pinion out of the axle. Hello, this is my setup. I've got this end of a torque tube piece, which I was kindly donated the other day from my friend Steve. He gave me that, and I've trimmed it down a little bit to allow me to get this in. I've got some lathe tools as packers, and these two are holding this on. This one and the one at the bottom are holding this on, and these four are jacking this out. I was winding and I could feel something giving, and I was looking through the hole and I couldn't see that it had moved, but I can actually see that it has moved now. It's slightly egg-shaped now, the hole, and you can see a step at the bottom there. So it is pushing it off, it is working. Just a handy hint, don't put a bead of weld around your thing to make it tighter. It's a bad idea. So some progress made. Back in a bit. Well, this has really been a struggle, but you can see I have actually moved it from there to there. So I've moved it about 1.5 inches. I can't jack it with the screws now, so I've been using a bit of brute force. Oh, there we are. Okay, thank goodness for that. Well, that was a job that wasn't very pleasant. Can't help thinking that it hasn't done the bearing a lot of good, all that hammering, but what can you do? Righto, well that's phase one of this part of the job done, and a very unpleasant job it was. I wasn't looking forward to this at all. I'll drain the oil and get it slung under the car so I can start taking some measurements. I got the axle under the car, and I have put a piece of wood across here, and the radius arms are resting on it. When they're not on it, they're under it, they're pushing it up. I'm temporarily using the radius arms as torque arms, and I've raised the axle on the jack, and the body is still on the axle stands, but I've relieved a lot of the weight of the body off the axle stands. I don't want to jack it up too much because you know, I'm trying to bend the radius arms in effect. So let's get underneath and have a look, see what's going on. I can't think of any other way to do it, but I'm going to hook the tape measure around that flange there, draw it back and just get a measurement to that flange. Okay, the tape is hooked behind that flange, so I've got to take off the thickness of that flange, and that is 1020 millimeters, or 40 and 3/16. less the thickness of that flange. Okay, that's my key dimension. I'm just trying to establish a dimension from this face to that face. I'll put these two heavy pieces of metal on the top of there, and I've got it so it's kind of level there and level there, close enough for government work. .3. I've just zeroed that at that reading. Well, I'll take these off. Right, that's 24 and a half less, let's say. Just rounding it a little bit. So it's about 24 and a half. It's slightly less than an inch. And how thick is this? 3.63. I know what the dimension needs to be from the flange. From the flange down to there. I've got to take off the thickness of the other flange because I measured from the back of it, and then take off 24 and a half. Then that will give me the dimension of that to there that I need for my new one. I'll go and do some sums and I'll come back in a bit. Okay, I've kind of done a little bit of rounding and fiddling and fudging, but the flange, let's call it 3.7. The dome offset is 24 and a half. My key dimension flange to flange on the car is 1020. 24 and a half plus 3.7 is 28.2. 1020 minus 28.2 is 992. No, 9. Oh, yeah. I've ignored the 0.2 because that's like 8,000. Yeah, 1020 minus 28 is 992. Now I'm a little bit concerned that the axle is a little bit far back, so I'm going to fudge it just that extra 2mm and call it 990. So my key measurement for my torque tube will be 990mm. And for those of you in using inches, 990mm is 39 inches. Okay, so that's my key dimension, 990mm or 39 inches, which is a pretty short torque tube. Okay, thanks a lot. I will go and look at what I've got as donors, and I'll come up with a plan. Back in a bit. Hello. Okay. This is the torque tube from the 32 in the lathe. This is a 36, something like that. As you can see, it's too long for me to put in my lathe, because I think the closest place I can get a steady on is that area there. But I do want to shorten it, so the overall length needs to be 39 inches, which is about here. So I've just put a mark there at 41 inches. I'm just going to check that that might be enough. 41, yeah. I should be able to get my steady on a piece that is 41 inches long. Okay, so I'm going to saw it off on the saw at that point there where I put that mark, which you can't see very well. Yeah, you can just about see it. I will then take this piece, put it in the lathe and turn this area here back to give the original register that the tubing was fitted to, and then I'll work out how long this piece is, and then I'll work out where I want to actually cut it, and I'll hold this part in the chuck and part it off at this point here, so hopefully holding the other end in the rest, so hopefully this part will be concentric, this part will be concentric, and I'll press them together, knock them together, and they will be relatively true, hopefully minimising any straightening that I might need to do later. That's my plan anyway. I'll be back in a bit. I took the end part of the torque tube and just took the flange, put it in the chuck, holding on the inside, and I've turned down this part here. I had to come right back to where it's a little bit thicker, and I've turned it down so that this part here is roughly around about the same diameter as the inside of the tubing, and I've put like a chamfer there as well. I'm thinking that I can just get the tubing onto there and that will help the weld. So what I need now is a dimension from that face to there, and then I can make a allowance and know where I need to cut off the other piece. Okay, righto, back in a bit. Hello, I've got the torque tube in the lathe, and I've kind of held it in the chuck like that, and I've bumped it around, and I've got this end running as true as I can. This is here more of a means of safety rather than expecting it to give ultimate levels of alignment. It's close, it's not miles off. I've left it up like that because I want to put the tape measure on it. I've just measured this here, and it comes out about 23. So my number that I'm aiming for is 990. Right, so let's work this out. Let's put that on there. So there's 990. So 23 back from there is 980, 970, 967. Okay, remember that number. So I've got this tool set at 967. Okay, so I'll wind it back because these things can run out quite horrendously. I just want to put a mark on. Yeah, it's running out a little bit, but I just want to get a mark on there. Okay, so that's got a mark now. This end's running not very true. Look at it. Okay. I'm beginning to think that this isn't the one I want to use. Yeah, I don't trust this. It's got a previous joint there, look. Okay. Right. Back in a bit. Hello, I've got the Allard torque tube in the lathe, and this one runs nice and true. Well, you know, relatively. I've got the bearing support part there, which is a machine surface running in the steady. I use this ball bearing device to help true it. turned all this round and got it running on there, pressed it so it ran quite true. A few fell out, but the steady's just holding it. So now I need to repeat that measurement that I did before and put a mark on the tube. Okay, back in a bit. I've partially parted it off, and I've put this other tool in, and I've just put like a weld prep chamfer on that edge there. See, it's chamfered in using that tool. So I'll put the parting tool back in and I'll finish parting it off. Okay, I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen then when it, you know, actually parted off, but it seems to be okay. Righto. I'm just going to, okay, I'll be back in a bit. I'll get set up for the next operation when I've worked out exactly what I'm going to do. Hello. Well, the two pieces fit together a little bit loose. I'm not very good at getting tolerances together, but it goes on. That's held in there, that's held there, so it's got its best chance of being reasonably true. I'm not going to say absolutely true, because I fully expect to have to do some aligning. I need to cut this up, grind this away, cut the thing off the other one and weld it on. There's also something there that's been cut off, so that wants to be ground away. There's nothing to stop me welding the thing on kind of up here to make the radius arms just that bit longer. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll move it and put it on here. It's looking okay though, isn't it? Let's check the dimension. Oh, well there you go, bang on, look what I said, 990 or 39 inches. You know, that's close enough for government work, isn't it? Here's the Allard torque tube. Here's where I cleaned off the old radius rod mount, and here's where I cleaned off that other thing. But I'm gonna put the thing on here just to gain that extra 6 inches of radius rod length. I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to make sure it's aligned sort of front and rear like that, and then weld it on. I won't film it because it's just a load of sparks, isn't it? Okay, righto, back in a bit. The normal post weld still steaming shot. Okay, this isn't where I've welded the thing on. This is opposite where I've welded the thing on. So there's the thing welded on there. Quite a substantial kind of bit of a welding job. So what I thought I'd do, I thought I'd just lay some beads on this side opposite to try and, you know, even up the heat soak. And in theory this would make this pull this way, so I've put those there to kind of pull it back this way. It's all theoretical, but just an attempt to try and maintain some element of alignment. Okay, right, now I'll put this on there over on the lathe and see what I can do to get the flange tacked on. Okay, back in a bit. The drain piece is there, so this is the bottom bolt when it bolts to the axle housing. So I put 2 bolts there. Got my combination piece here. That's against the bolts in the holes, and that's on 0. Okay, so I'll put the torque tube onto there. I'll just put that against there. Bear in mind it's so much easier when you're using 2 hands. And that's level there. And I'll just put the thing back against there, and that's level as well. That's how I'm going to weld it, because that bit needs to stick down and that bolt hole needs to be at the bottom. Righto, I'll bring the welder down here then and get set up. Right, I've just finished welding it. It's still steaming. I thought I would just let it rotate a bit as it's cooling. Yeah, there's a little bit of... Well, it's not lifting up and down, is it? Yeah, not quite sure what's happening there. Okay, well, it is what it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's one of them, you can only do your best. Yeah, let's just hope everything's okay. The weld looks okay. The weld looks good, actually. What I did, I double checked the bolts in the square. I double checked the thing there in the square. I actually moved them apart very slightly to give me a wider weld area. So it'll probably be a couple of mil over length, but it doesn't matter. I did a tack there at the bottom position. I then did a tack at... I turned it and did a tack at the top. I did a tack at 90 degrees, 90 degrees. I then went to the first position and did like a halfway from there to halfway. So then kind of did 4 long, that was 4 long beads halfway. And then I wire brushed it all and did the other 4 from halfway to the back of the previous tack. So 8 sort of welds really. I think it looks okay. Okay, righto, so there's my torque tube. I think that's a reasonable job for today. I need to clean in there and make sure that bearing surface is okay, which it doesn't look like it is, and probably change the seal as well. Righto, back in a bit. I've just cleaned this area up a bit. It's a bit pitted, but it's going to have to do. I've also cleaned that area there a little bit. Probably the best of a bad job. I'm looking down there and I need... Oh yeah, I can see the split in the bearing. There's a dimple there. And there should be a hole. There should be a hole in the bearing as well, where you can kind of grab it and pull it out. So I think I'll try and pull that bearing out. I'm trying to pull the bearing out of here, and I've just kind of improvised a tool. It's just a bit of tubing with a lump of weld on it there. Oh, I think that's gone in. Got it. Look. So I need to either clean this up or fit another one. And all that was is a piece of tubing, piece of square tubing with a lump of weld on it. Like that, and there you can see the arrangement of it. Okay. Worked well, that did. Okay, back in a bit. I've got the bearing out and I've got the seal out. So what I want to do is put a new seal in there, clean that bearing surface up, you know, the surface that the bearing fits into, and put a new seal in it. I only put a new seal in the other one very recently, so I'm going to see if I can successfully remove the other seal. Here's the one that's just come out of here, and you can see I've damaged it taking it out. So and what you can see there, this face that you're looking at is the face that goes towards the gearbox. This seal is configured to retain oil in the UJ area rather than retain oil in the axle. Yep. Okay, so I need to get, if I want to get the other one out, I've got to get it out better than that. I managed to get that seal out without too much damage. It's a tiny bit dented there, but I just slipped it over that shaft there, and it still slips over there okay. So I'm going to use that. I'll clean this out and I'll get this in. Once I got the bearing out and I was able to see the hole, I was able to kind of refile the little thing on there, so you can see that how that fits now. I might try doing it vertically. Yeah, let's go and get it over on the table on the Swindon's vice. I need it to drop into that dimple. Okay, where's the dimple? The dimple is opposite the speedo hole. There's the speedo hole, so the dimple is towards me. Okay, there's the bearing. The dimple is there, so the dimple needs to be here, so the split needs to be there. So there's the split. Okay, so there's the speedo hole, so the dimple is here, so I think it just needs to go a bit further. Okay, something happened then. Yeah. Yes. Okay, yeah, that's it. There's the hole that you turn, that the tool engages in there. Here's a dimple. Right. There's the speedo hole. Can you see that the dimple is there, look? Well, that's the dimple in the bearing that's gone into the hole in the casing. So there we are. There's a good serviceable seal in there and a good serviceable bearing. I'll just clean, there's a couple of little bits of mess in there which I'll clean out. So this is cleaned up, it'll all be greased up, cleaned and greased, and fitted to the vehicle. It's all looking a lot happier now at this end. Okay, the next thing I need to do then is to take this dimension from top to bottom, which is 990 millimeters, and then use that to calculate the length of my drive shaft. Hello, I've got the drive shaft in the lathe. I've got the steady here. It's only on a piece of the tubing, but it seems to be coping okay. And what I'm trying to do is to get rid of this piece that I welded on before. So I've parted it off a certain way through, then I took my grinder and cut through there like that. Now, so what I'm hoping is that I can get these two parts apart. I might just cut this off, then that'll allow me to just work on this piece, and I will kind of refurbish this, then cut the tube to length, put them together and weld them in a similar way to how they were done there years ago. Okay, righto. Oh, I've got a drive shaft in there, look, and it sticks all the way through there. Look, and I've rigged up a external support for it just to stop it flailing around. It's just I just happened to keep my 4-jaw chuck there, so I put a piece of tubing in the chuck and clamped a V-block to it, and that I'll just show you it turning. I've got the top of the thing off, but that shouldn't matter. Quite neat, really. Okay, back in a bit. I'm quite pleased with that because I've just come here with a screwdriver and did that, and it just moved. So that's good, isn't it? That's saved. That means there's no problem with getting these two parts apart, and it also means that this spline here is okay. This is the end of the Allard drive shaft, and I have successfully removed all the tubing from it. I put like a weld prep chamfer on it, and it's all, you know, seems okay. This is that drive shaft I had in before, but I've turned it round, so this is actually the axle end here. I did that in case this is machined to a tighter tolerance than the other end which goes into the UJ. I consulted my previous video, which states that the drive shaft to this side of the bolt, or you know, the pin, is 70 millimeters shorter than the torque tube. That's why I've been working in millimeters, because I know it's easier to work in millimeters for this job. I need the dimension from there to there, because that's got to be part of the calculation of where I need to cut the tube. Okay, let's get that dimension. Okay, right, so that is, for the sake of argument, let's leave a little gap like that. Well, should we call it 40 mil? Okay, let's call it 40 mil. Right, the torque tube is 990, less 70 is 920, less another 40 is 880. But what I want to do is have 50 millimeters of material sticking this way to hold in the chuck. So 880 plus 50 is back to 930. So I need to saw it off at 930 millimeters. I've got my tape measure along the thing. This is a kind of two-handed operation, but got it hooked on the end there, and that parting off tool is in line with the 880 mark. Okay, but what I'll do before I cut, I will go and double and triple check my numbers. There's not much double checking to do really. The torque tube is 990, less 70 is 920 to the bolt. Then the adapter piece is 40, so less 40 is 880, and that's it. That's the dimension, isn't it? 880, and I've just set it. And for those in black and white, it's 34.65 inches. I'll partially part it off and then put like a weld prep on it and then finish parting it off. Okay, back in a bit. There's the shaft running in the lathe. It's just on the spline. Now there is a bit of play in the spline, but I'm going to try and use the ball bearing trick. okay, that's okay. Because that tiny little bit of run out is less than the play, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to call that good. I'm going to check the length. Which is 920 to the edge of the hole, and that is within about half a millimetre. That's good enough. I'll bring you up to the business end then, and you can watch me weld it if you like. Tack. Set it running. Ooh. I'll set it running slowly so that gravity doesn't pull it down. I can see a little bit of run out on the end. Yeah, there's a bit of run out. Okay, there's my drive shaft. Quite a neat job really, the welding there. I'd say that's good enough. No need to go mad. See what was useful, I don't know if you noticed, but because I was turning the truck with my left hand, I couldn't support my right hand. I normally support my right hand with my left hand when I'm welding, but it was just handy. You can't see, it's not in the picture. It's just handy that just here is a big spanner, and I used that to rest my arm on when I was welding. Made a big difference. Yesterday I left the job in much the same position, but with the torque tube in the lathe with the welds cooling like that. And today I've done the drive shaft, and that's all there is to the drive shaft. Not very much of it at all. I hope I've done this right. Oh well, we'll soon see. We'll call that good then, and the next stage of the job will be to get the axle back out from under the car, put this on, make any adjustment for alignment if need be, then put the torque tube on and make any adjustment for alignment with that. So that's the next stage of the job. Then the next stage of the job is to either come up with some new radius arms or shorten the existing radius arms. So that's the next phase. Okay, thanks a lot then. You take care, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers then, bye.